Hello friends and welcome to another Nostalgia Talk bonus. So picture this. The boss of a company has a meeting with all the staff members and tells them, we have a new crew member coming in. We got a new member of our staff coming in. And one of the staff members says, "Who is he?" Why are you assuming that it's a he? Or for example, this one happens to me regularly. I'm walking my dog, and my dog is female, and somebody will come over and say hi to the dog, and my dog will go and say hello to them, and I'll give them a little bit of time on the walk to mingle. And somebody will ask me, what's his name? Well, how do you know that the dog is a him? Or another example is if I'm going out with one of my friends. Most of my friends are female, and I'm serious, like about 85% of my friends are all girls. And I'll explain to a family member, I'm going out tonight with a friend, and they'll say, "Do I know him?" And I find that happens sometimes for people who don't know me, or don't know me well. You know, like, they'll just assume I'm gonna be spending time with a guy, which sometimes is the case, but again, most of my friends are girls, so usually that's who I'm hanging out with. What I just described is something that is still going on. I'm not really saying it's a bad thing, but it could be bothersome for the other person. Like in the first scenario, we have a new staff member. Who is he? Well, if it was a female staff member, that person could be bothered by the fact that they're being misgendered. And as I said, most of my friends are female, and my very favorite singer is actually Britney Spears. I love listening to Britney Spears, Alyssa Reed, Avril Lavigne, JoJo, who else? Destiny's Child, TLC. I actually just saw an all-female band from Canada recently called The Beaches. And like, it's 4 females, a female bass player, guitar player, drummer, keyboardist. They're amazing, check them out. With today being Women's Day, I thought I would look back on an old school Sesame Street episode that tackled feminism in the workplace, which, as I said, that's something that is still seen to this day. This episode aired back in the 70s. So it starts with Maria in the fix-it shop with Luis, and she says to Luis, "I'm expecting a call. I applied for a job, and I'm just waiting to hear back, and I'm expecting a call from them, and I told them to call here." And Luis just assumes that it's a babysitting gig. Then the phone rings, and Maria talks to the person on the other line. You don't hear the end of the conversation, but it's from a construction company. And she explains that she got a job with their training program and was going to be working with the company. And Luis says, "I've never thought of a woman being a construction worker." Now that really irritates Maria. She explains to him, women can be astronauts, bus drivers, there are police women, women can do anything. So she's a little bit irritated by that. Luis wasn't exactly saying that women can't be construction workers. He was just saying that it's not something he's ever thought of, which isn't exactly the same thing. But at the same time, I can understand why Maria would be a little bit PO'd by that. Actually, my dad works in construction, and I've seen women working with his company. There's many of them there. So Maria is all ready. She's got her construction uniform on, and so she's showing them to Big Bird and the kids. And Big Bird's like, "Oh, I hope you're not too scared of being up high like that." Oh God, sorry Dad. I don't know how you don't get nervous about that, but I guess you'd be harnessed. That was never explained in this episode. But anyway, so eventually Maria starts working with the company and meets the foreman, played by Muppet performer Jerry Nelson. Not as a Muppet, as an actual human. So they meet up, and Jerry, the foreman, doesn't have a name, but he has a very recognizable face for us Muppet fans. So Jerry says, "So you're the new man on the crew?" And Maria's like, "The new man?" And Jerry's like, "Sorry, new person." Now that is another really good way to, to not assume somebody's gender. Like the first scenario I brought up, we have a new staff member coming. Who is that? That's probably a better way to ask instead of just assuming the gender. Or refer to them, or because he said we have a new person. So Jerry says, so you're the new person on the crew, instead of correcting himself from new man. Now this scene actually has something really, really interesting in it. And I was talking to my dad about this, because again, this is what my dad does for a living, construction. And his dad did too. It's funny, it's just not something I really care to go into, but I have been on their sites before, and I've kind of seen what it is that they do. As a kid, I was always really, really fascinated by it. So Maria kind of thinks about the being up high on the tall buildings part, because the building that they're on top of, it looks like they're really, really up high on the building. That's not even finished yet, just on girders that have been riveted together. And that's what Maria is on the job for, as an apprentice riveter. So Jerry says, there's a man here, his name's Pete, and he's gonna come here and show you how to rivet. Do you have any questions? And Maria says, yes. How do you keep from getting scared? Now this is the quote that I really like from this episode, and the one I was talking to my dad about. Jerry says, I don't get scared, but I'm scared all the time. Now, when I watched this episode, I thought, what? And then Jerry says to Maria, look, if you're scared, that means that you know there's danger, and it'll keep you from forgetting. So as long as you're scared, you'll be okay. Now, that's a really, really good way to think about it, when you're up. And they weren't harnessed. I guess because now it's kind of a law that you have to be harnessed when you're up that high, because that is so dangerous. But yeah, that's a good way to think of it. If you're scared, that means you know that what you're doing is dangerous. And that's words to live by right there. So Maria is waiting on Pete, and Jerry returns. By which I mean in the form of his Muppet character Biff. Anybody remember Biff and Sully? Jerry was Biff, and he sees Maria, and he's like, hey, little lady, I heard you were working with us. And Maria says to Biff, don't call me little lady. That seems to be a habit with Biff, that he always called her little lady. So, Biff's like, I heard you were going to be working with us. You're the new apprentice riveter. And Maria says, yeah, I'm just waiting on Pete. And Biff says, oh, you'll be waiting all day for Pete. Let me show you how to rivet. And it's like lunchtime for them. And so Biff, for those of you who don't remember Biff and Sully on Sesame Street, Biff was the very confident, very talkative one of the pair. Sully never spoke. Biff never even let him. Like, for example, I remember, hey, what do you got for lunch today, Sully? Wait, don't tell me. I bet you got... And Sully's, about to open his mouth and answer Biff's question. And Biff's like, wait, don't tell me. I bet you got a bologna sandwich. Huh? Of course you do. So, yeah, Sully just... I've seen episodes where Sully just gets so pissed off by Biff that he's probably thinking, my God, if this guy does not shut up! So, because of Biff's confidence, he accidentally rivets his lunch pail to the girder. And Maria tries to tell him, you're riveting your lunch pail to the girder, but Biff is too focused. And it's basically stuck there. So Maria finishes working and goes back to Sesame Street to tell everyone how it went. And she said, you'll never guess who I met up there. And we see that now it's late at night and Biff and Sully are still trying to get the lunchbox off of the girder. Sully accidentally hits Biff's hand with a hammer, and Maria announces the sponsors. Sesame Street has been brought to you today by the letter... I'm just gonna spit out a random letter. By the letter G, and by the number 9, let's say. I don't remember if those were the actual sponsors, but I'm just using that as an example. So... Biff overhears Maria's voiceover and says, will you shut up? After this episode, we never saw Maria with that company, and we never actually found out if Biff got his lunch pail off the girder, but it was a very interesting episode to watch. Because as I said, at my dad's at my dad's company, like they've got women working with them. So yeah, there's a lot of things that women can do. And there was actually a song on Sesame Street about that, about what women can do. There were astronauts. I think there was a lion tamer. So if you want to watch this episode of Sesame Street about feminism, you know where to go, right there. I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about it, and I will see you next time. Peace.